Las Vegas is known around the world for its famous resorts, show experiences, and nightlife. Every year, millions of tourists flock to the city to indulge themselves, famously in the form of gambling and drinking.
Las Vegas is not a place I don't think I can live in here. It's too crazy for me.
I'm not gonna lie, before I came on this trip, I had no prior knowledge to what was going on here.
The lavish nightlife on the Strip gives tourists an unforgettable experience that makes many want to come back year after year. The tourism industry is the foundation of the Las Vegas economy, and it is vital for the sustained growth of the city. However, largely unknown to tourists, there is a crisis that threatens the future of this paradise.
If you realize that on the Las Vegas Strip, it was a lot of big casinos and clubs and all of these like giant monuments here, and they use up a lot of water themselves. So I think it's good in terms of, having tourists. It's like a big tourist attraction, but at the same time, they're adding to the issue. So,
well, the climate's really dry and arid. They have large displays of fountains and other things that you don't really see in Michigan. We kind of take the water for granted. We have natural resources like the Great Lakes, which, have a lot of water, versus out here it's a desert.
Nevada's year-round sweltering heat, paired with very little annual rainfall, has created a vast desert landscape. It is important to remember that Las Vegas is a city standing in the middle of the desert. Its main reservoir, Lake Mead, has lost more than 143 feet of water since 2000. This is of grave concern, as Lake Mead's water is what sustains the Las Vegas tourism industry.
Let's kind of roll ourselves back to the early 1930s when Hoover Dam was built and Lake Mead was formed. So the intent behind that was actually a public works project to create power. Hydroelectric dam, very good way to generate power. So they're going to create a dam, block up the Colorado River, fill up the canyons that are surrounded with water to allow Lake Mead to form, and we've got a great hydroelectric dam, which should provide as much water as this community could ever need, in theory, right? You can imagine in the 1930s, I don't know what the population of this area was then, but it was nowhere near what it is right now. And so that lake would have seemed like an infinite amount of water available. But then as Las Vegas grew through decades, then suddenly the lake remains the same. I think the peak water level in the lake occurred around 2000. The Las Vegas population, meanwhile, is getting bigger and bigger, bigger, bigger. But the lake is still the same size. So eventually it catches up, right? One catches up with the other. And I think so when they built it, had no idea that that wasn't going to be enough water. If they look at it today, they're like, it's not enough water. We got to do something because it's dropping and we need, we have a still continuing growing community here. And of course, on top of all that, we're in the desert. Not a lot of other choices available.
Las Vegas is starting to have a blatant water shortage problem, and if not addressed, this can turn into a catastrophe for the city. However, even though water is becoming increasingly scarce, the tourism industry still seems to be trying to hide it from tourists.
My knowledge of that water issue probably would be slim. I'd be hanging out in the tourist areas, I'd be hanging around, the Las Vegas Strip. And around there, they don't really show any sign that there's an issue. You got all the fountains, you got all the water, the people walking around, and they kind of seem to try to push that situation away in the tourist areas. So I would not be aware that there was a problem.
So, Bellagio Fountain sits on a lake, an artificial lake in the middle of the desert, right? And while it does use a lot of water, a lot of that water is recycled right back in. It's filtered and used over and over and over again. It's not like they're constantly tapping Lake Mead to keep filling that lake. They filled it once and now it's full. And now they just have to replenish it when they lose water due to evaporation.
The use of water, they use it as like a show of like, oh, we have water in a desert, look at these fountains, look at this large amount of wealth we have and our natural resources we're able to procure despite being in a desert. It's kind of fascinating. I find it really interesting. the recycling of water and how they're able to recycle water at such a great rate. They have like 198% recycle rate on water. It's really interesting that they can take water that goes down the drain and then re-spit it back out for people to use.
Generally speaking, I think they're pretty efficient models. The same with the Venetian Palazzo, which has a canal out in front of it, right? A very large water feature. That one as well loses water to evaporation, but that is the only water that has to be replaced. The water that's in there is just filtered and continually recycled. As you move forward, though, and you look at the newer resorts that are building here, in fact, there's a new resort that just opened, Resorts World, which is on the north end of the Strip. They don't have these water features out in front. They don't have a big lake. And some of that is just due to changing tastes and design of these big resorts. Other is due to conservation efforts. Is they're realizing that maybe we don't need that if it's not going to impact the guest experience, and let's focus on indoor activities. So, you know, those are two areas. The one area that all of these resorts have in common are large pools. They've got massive swimming pools. I think at Venetian there's something like 23 swimming pools. So, you know, in that case, you have a lot of water usage that's filtered, again, reused, so you do lose some to evaporation, but that's common in all of the resorts. So as Las Vegas continues to develop and build more resorts, you still kind of have that issue to deal with, right? You have a small amount of increased water usage compared to what you have to use initially to fill those things up.
One of Las Vegas's most popular attractions are the lush golfing greens. Based on a T Economy estimation, there were around 1 million visitors who played golf while on a day or overnight trip in 2018. Las Vegas boasts excellent public and private lessons and golfing grounds that can be enjoyed year-round. However, a single 18-hole round of golf at a typical Las Vegas golf course requires 2,507 gallons of water. That's not virtual water. It's the actual amount of water that has to be sprinkled onto the golf course to get it ready, each night for each golfer. The annual water consumption of golf alone accounts for 6.8% of the total water consumption of Las Vegas, while the resorts account for 7.2% of consumption. Despite the severity of the water shortage problem, hope is not lost, as many see concrete solutions for the issue.
That climate change is a fact. There's plenty of scientific evidence that supports that. So we can't reverse that change in a very short horizon, right? We can, if we listen to the researchers and the scientists, over decades change it. But we're not going to change the next 5 years. And so we have to find the solution to the problem that can be done now. And that is innovation. That's how that happens. You begin with a problem and you find innovative solutions to those problems that you could employ or take to market now. And maybe they work, maybe they don't. That's part of the innovation process. Most don't work, but you got to keep trying. And so I think that the solution now is to try and have an impact, right? Try new things. What has to change are the resources that supply it, right? We've got to figure out the water problem. We can't let an electricity problem occur. So there are these other criteria that are impacting that first assertion I made. And I think that to do that, everyone is well aware that these other problems need to be fixed as well. And that's why there's so much attention being paid to them at a government level.
Well, specifically here, I know they are having like a very bad shortage. So we went to Lake Mead and we've seen like the water levels at like 30% of what it's usually at. And at this rate, like within 50 years, literally the whole western area will be out of water completely. So I think it's good we can start now and hopefully make a change and find a solution to the issue.
Las Vegas is known for being an oasis in the desert, allowing travelers to party and live freely for their short stay. Without the tourism industry, Las Vegas's economy will be destroyed, with little hope for economic revival. Currently, the biggest threat to the tourism sector is the water scarcity issue in the Las Vegas Valley. Las Vegas's main source of water is from the Lake Mead Reservoir, which is rapidly drying up. If the water shortage is not addressed, locals and tourists alike will have to abandon the miraculous oasis. There is hope, though. With greater public awareness and development of technologies to tackle the crisis, the problem can be averted. Only time will tell if Las Vegas will be able to address the problem in time and sustain its tourist haven for generations to come.